Of the 8 people preparing for tonight's show, only one will take home the prize money of up to £20,000. The others will leave with nothing after their own teammates vote them the weakest link.
Welcome to the weakest link. Any of the 8 people in the studio here tonight could win up to £20,000. They don't know each other. However, if they want the prize money, they'll have to work as a team. But 7 of them will leave with nothing, as round by round we lose the player voted the weakest link. Let's meet the team.
My name's Paula. I'm a 24-year-old healthcare assistant from Tyneside.
I'm Mike, I'm 52 and I'm a postman from Coventry.
I'm Linda, 45, an accounts manager from East London.
I'm Steve, I'm 32, a Royal Air Force engineer from Fairford in Gloucestershire.
I'm Ali, I'm 33 and I'm a part-time catering assistant and a mum from Plymouth.
I'm Pete, I'm 27, I'm a research assistant from Liverpool.
I'm Pat, a 63-year-old retired receptionist from Padiham in Lancashire.
I'm Chris, 18, student from Perth.
Now, the rules. In each round, the aim is to answer enough questions correctly to reach your £2,500 target within the time limit. The fastest way is to create a chain of 8 correct answers. Get your question wrong and you break the chain and lose all the money in that chain. But if you say bank before the question is asked, the money is safe. However, you start a new chain from scratch. Remember, at the end of the round, only money that has been banked can be taken forward. In round 1, there are 2.5 minutes on the clock. We'll start with the person whose name is first alphabetically. That's you, Ali. Let's play the weakest link. The first question is for £50. Start the clock. Ali, in the human body, which organ is used for both smelling and breathing?
Lungs.
Nose. Pete, in the nursery rhyme, who had lost her sheep?
Little Bo Peep.
Correct. Pat, Dr. Watson was the friend of which fictional detective?
Sherlock Holmes.
Correct. Chris, in the animal kingdom, what bee is the name of a semi-aquatic rodent that dams streams and rivers?
Beaver.
Correct. Paula, according to the proverb, there is no pleasure without what?
Pain.
Correct. Mike,
Bank.
in food, gorgonzola is a type of what?
Cheese.
Correct. Linda, polar and grizzly are types of which large mammal?
Bear.
Correct. Steve, how many legs does the Eiffel Tower have?
4.
Correct. Ali, which 1933 film about a huge ape ends with the words "It was Beauty killed the Beast"?
No idea.
King Kong. Pete, in religion, what name is given to the Christian ceremony of initiation into the church, usually involving the sprinkling of or immersion in water?
Christening.
Baptism. I'll accept christening. Pat, in nature, an adult European robin has what colour breast feathers?
Red.
Correct. Chris, what addition to postal addresses was introduced in 1959 in the UK?
Postcode.
Correct. Paula, in economics, what aim is a place where coins are made?
Pass.
Mint. Mike, in botany, does an aerial root begin growth above or below the ground?
Below.
Above. Linda, what number carat is pure gold?
24.
Correct. Steve, in the animal kingdom, what colour is the fur of an albino hamster?
It's white.
Correct. Ali, what was the name of Philip Schofield's gloved puppet sidekick on the children's TV show Going Live?
Gordon the Gopher.
Correct. Pete,
Bank.
by what shortened name is the politician Anthony Neil Wedgwood Benn more commonly
Tony
known?
Benn.
Correct. Pat, what word can mean a hole-in-one at golf or an unreturnable tennis serve?
Ace.
Correct. Chris, in fashion, what bee was a device for making dresses stand out at the back?
Pass.
Bustle. Paula, the 1976 biographical film Goodbye Norma Jean was about which Hollywood icon?
Marilyn Monroe.
Correct. Mike, a cabbage white is a variety of which insect?
Butterfly.
Correct. Linda, what P is the name of the English Football League introduced in 1992?
Premiership.
Correct. Steve, what are you said to have in your cap if you have fulfilled a personal achievement or gained an honour?
Pass.
Feather. Ali, in nature, the term queen, worker and drone are associated with which type of insect?
Bees.
Correct.
Bang.
Pete, what name is given to the pastime of descending a steep face backwards using a rope fixed above the climber?
Abseiling.
Correct, Pat. Time is up. And in that first round, you banked just £750 of the £2,500 available to you, whose train fare could have been better spent. One of you is about to leave with nothing. It's time to vote off the weakest link.
The statistics show that Pete is the first strongest link. Ali was the only player to answer 2 questions incorrectly, which makes her the weakest link. But at this early stage of the game, how will the voting go?
Okay, voting over, it's time to reveal who you think is the weakest link.
Steve.
Ali.
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 Mike.
Ali.
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 Steve, what do you do?
I'm a Royal Air Force engineer.
Do you have to be qualified for that?
Very much so, Annie.
Yeah. You got any qualifications?
Yes, I do.
What have you got?
I've got a HNC in engineering, 10 O-levels.
10 O-levels. And you've never heard of a feather in your cap?
We always wear a beret in the Air Force.
What did Ali do to upset you?
I think she got one more wrong than I did.
Just the one.
Just the one.
Pat, how's it going for you?
Not bad.
Why Ali?
Because she got a couple of questions wrong.
Right. Ali, have you been suffering from memory loss for long?
It's just really unfair that my name begins with A and nobody else's does. And if somebody else had been on first, I wouldn't have got the question wrong.
And what happened when you got the second question wrong?
That was because I didn't know it.
Where'd you come from?
Plymouth.
Will they be missing you in Plymouth?
They'll probably be taking the mickey out of me for years to come, actually.
Well, not for long, because you're going back there now. With 6 votes, you are the weakest link. Bye.
I'm absolutely gutted to be voted off as the first weakest link. Everybody's going to take the real mick out of me when I get home and at work, and I feel really humiliated. But I did deserve it. I got the most questions wrong out of everybody, but it was just nerves.
Round 2. You've won a not very impressive £750 so far out of a possible 2,500. 7 of you left. We are now taking 10 seconds off the clock. We'll start with the strongest link from the last round. That's Pete. Let's play the weakest link. Start the clock. Pete, if it takes 5 seconds to wash up 1 plate, how many minutes will it take to wash up 12?
1 minute.
Correct, Pat. In music, what H is another name for a mouth organ?
Harmonica.
Correct, Chris. In the children's novel, what kind of animal was Tarka?
A seal.
An otter. Paula, in the song Hush Little Baby, what is Mother gonna sing?
A lullaby.
Correct, Mike. In which European city is the monument known as the Arc de Triomphe?
Paris.
Correct, Linda. Is a columbine a plant or an animal?
It's a plant.
Correct, Steve. John Hurt played the outcast John Merrick in which 1980 film?
The Elephant Man.
Correct,
Blank.
Pete. In cookery, the Italian seafood dish calamari has what S as its principal
Squid.
ingredient? Correct, Pat. In angling, what is the common name for the bait which is made from feathers or coloured thread?
Fly.
Correct, Chris. In Cockney rhyming slang, what is Rosie Lee?
Pass.
T. Paula, in which science fiction TV series would you find Special Agent Mulder?
The X-Files.
Correct, Mike. What is the BBC Children's Daily News programme called?
Jackanory.
News round. Linda, in transport, what is a fan-like device with rotating blades used to give forward motion to ships and aeroplanes?
Propeller.
Correct, Steve. In verse, how many stresses are there in a pentameter?
5.
Correct, Pete. Which James Bond star had jobs including a coffin polisher, a milkman and a lifeguard before he found fame?
Sean Connery.
Correct, Pat. What tea describes a cow's stomach prepared as food?
Tripe.
Correct, Chris. In British geography, which is further south, Swansea or Cardiff?
Cardiff.
Correct, Paula. In biology, how many lenses does each human eye have?
1.
Correct. Mike.
Bank.
In children's literature, which character wore a tag bearing the request, please look after this bear, thank you?
Paddington.
Correct. Linda, on a dartboard, which number is directly opposite number 1?
20.
19. Steve, in the animal kingdom, is the hippopotamus a carnivore or a herbivore?
It's a herbivore.
Correct. Pete, which star of 1940s Hollywood movies was elected 40th President of the United States?
Ronald Reagan.
Correct. Pat, in the Bible, was St. Bartholomew one of the apostles?
Yes.
Correct.
Bank.
Chris, in nature, what F is a young bird that has just left the nest?
Fledgling.
Correct. Paula, in the theatre, which one of the following is considered bad luck to do backstage? Time is up. And you did rather better, team, in that round without Ali. £2,200 banked out of a possible 2,500. But who is looking worryingly slow? I urge you, sack the culprit, dump the dunce, ditch the ditherer, heave the no-hoper. It's time to vote off the weakest link.
For the second time, Pete is the strongest link. The weakest link is Chris, although he did bank some money for the team. But will the voting follow the facts?
Voting over, it's time to reveal who you think is the weakest link.
Chris.
Chris.
I'm sorry, Chris.
Chris.
Mike.
Chris.
Linda.
How's it going for you, Linda?
I think it's going very well, Anne.
Any qualifications?
Yes, I have 8 O-levels, Anne, and 5 stone ago I taught aerobics. I'm a qualified aerobic teacher.
What's the point of aerobics?
It keeps you fit.
Why Chris?
I was sad to vote Chris off, but he got one wrong and he passed on the next, so he had to go.
Chris, where'd you come from?
Perth.
Right. Is this your first visit to London?
Second.
Second. So you've never heard anyone called T. Rosie Lee?
Never.
No. And do they not have any otters in Perth?
Not that I know of, no.
No. And what are you going to do when you grow up?
Pilot.
A pilot. Right. Statistically, you were the worst player, and with 5 votes, you are the weakest link. Goodbye.
In the flesh, Anne is just as scary on television. When her eyes meet yours, you can feel there's trouble brewing. I think the eventual winner at the moment will be Pete. He seems the most intelligent of the ones who are left, and I think he should go on and do very well.
Round 3. You have in the bank £2,950. You could, of course, by now have £5,000. You are down to 6 players. You've got rid of Ali, who thought it was unfair. Her name began with A. And Chris, the 18-year-old who's never heard of Tarka the otter. We're taking another 10 seconds off the clock. We start with the strongest link from the last round. That's Pete. Let's play the weakest link. Start the clock. Pete, in the children's cartoon, what sort of animal was superhero Hong Kong Phooey?
It was a dog.
Correct, Pat. In the military, what P is a small firearm designed to be fired with one hand?
Pistol.
Correct. Paula, in Cornwall, what sort of food is a tiddy-oggy? A savoury pasty or a fruit dessert?
Fruit dessert.
It's a savoury pasty. Mike, which London street parallel to Regent Street is famous for its exclusive tailors?
Savile Row.
Savile Row, correct. Linda, in commerce, what L is the act of ending the existence of a business or company?
Liquidation.
Correct. Steve, in music, which hit song did Otis Redding record just days before his death in 1967?
Sitting on the dock of the bay.
Correct. Pete, in the human body, is the diaphragm situated above or below the liver?
It's above.
Correct. Pat, what was the title of the biography of Peanuts cartoonist Charles Schulz, published in 1989? Good Grief or Not Again?
Pass.
Good grief. Paula, in nature, what tea is the common name given to a poisonous fungus that has a cap-like top on the stem?
Toadstool.
Correct. Mike, what via organic compounds required for the maintenance of normal metabolic functions in the human body?
Pass.
Vitamins. Linda, in cookery, what name is given to the liquid obtained by boiling meat, fish or vegetables and used as a foundation for soup?
Stock.
Correct. Steve, in meteorology, what S falls as a mixture of rain and partially thawed snow?
Sleet.
Correct. Pete, Which 1972 film directed by Bob Fosse won Liza Minnelli an Oscar for her portrayal of Sally Bowles?
Cabaret.
Correct, Pat. In the British peerage, which is the higher degree of nobility, Earl or Marquess?
Earl.
Marquess. Paula, the poet and novelist Vikram Seth wrote the novel A Suitable What in 1993?
Pass.
A Suitable Boy. Mike, which Paris airport is named after a French president?
Charles de Gaulle.
Correct. Linda, in fashion, East Sites and dandies were men who dressed extravagantly in which century?
The 18th century.
19th century.
Bang.
Steve, in British politics, which Welsh party won its first parliamentary seat in 1966?
Plaid Cymru.
Correct.
Bang.
Pete, by what name is a post-mortem examination of a dead body also known?
Autopsy.
Correct. Pat. Time is up. And you went backwards, team. You scraped together a pathetic £250. Whose time is definitely up? Who is a dreadful disappointment? It's time to vote off the weakest link.
Once again, Pete is the strongest link. The statistics show that Paula is the weakest link. But will the other players have picked up on this?
Voting over, it's time to reveal who you think is the weakest link.
Pat.
Paula.
Paula.
Pat.
Paula.
Mike.
Pete, you came with plenty of knowledge, didn't you?
I hope so.
Where'd you come from?
Liverpool.
What'd you do?
I'm a research assistant.
What's your research?
It's in compost.
How'd you do that?
Great difficulty.
What, you just go and dig it in the garden, do
Yeah,
you?
go and dig it and then see what chemicals are in it, see what grows in it, whatever.
What's Paula done to upset you?
She hasn't upset me at all. It's just, I think she got more questions wrong than anyone else.
Right. What happened to you, Paula?
Don't know.
Never been to Cornwall?
No?
Don't read much?
No.
It's not funny, is it?
No.
Where is it you come from?
Newcastle.
OK, well, you'll be seeing it very soon. With 3 votes, you are the weakest link. Goodbye.
I think my performance tonight has been very disappointing. I can do this at home, sit with my cup of tea, answering question after question, and when it comes to it, I just cannot do it. Linda's slightly irritating, she's quite loud, and I would least like to see her go home with the money.
Round 4, you've banked £3,200 so far out of potential prize money of £7,500. There are 5 of you left. We are taking another 10 seconds off the clock. You now have only 2 minutes. We'll start with the strongest link from the last round. That's Pete. Let's play the weakest link. Start the clock. Pete, in botany, the anther and the filament in a flower together make up which S?
Stamen.
Correct, Pat. In which North African country are the cities of Fez and Marrakesh?
Morocco.
Correct. Mike, in the animal kingdom, which K is a small falcon with a long tail and the ability to hover before diving on its prey?
Kestrel.
Correct. Linda, does topophilia refer to intense affection or intense revulsion felt towards a particular place?
Revulsion.
Affection. Steve, in literature, the character Rachel Wardle appears in the Charles Dickens novel The Pickwick what?
Papers.
Correct. Pete, which A is a theatre situated in London's Shaftesbury Avenue named after a Greek god?
Pass.
Apollo. Pat.
Bank.
In 1989, the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species banned the trading of which substance taken from elephants?
Ivory.
Correct. Mike, in the animal kingdom, what insect do the English commonly call daddy longlegs?
Spider.
Cranefly. Linda, in history, what bee was an ancient British queen who led a rebellion through the Roman towns of Colchester, London and St Albans?
Boadicea.
Correct.
Bang.
Steve, in pop music, for what do the initials MOR stand when describing a style of music?
Pass.
Middle of the road. Pete, in 1919, John Alcock and Arthur Brown made the first non-stop flight across which ocean?
The Atlantic.
Correct. Pat,
Bank.
in anatomy, what C describes the part of the human skull which encloses the brain?
The cranium.
Correct.
Bank.
Mike, in geography, in which continent would you find the Republic of the Gambia?
Africa.
Correct. Linda, in science, what A is an inert noble gas used in Geiger counters and household light bulbs?
Pass.
Argon. Steve, of which vegetable are Feltham First and Kelvedon Wonder varieties?
Potato.
Peas. Pete, Martin and Charlie Sheen appeared together in which 1987 Oscar-winning film set in the stockbroker world of New York City?
Wall Street.
Correct, Pat. Which duo created the musical Oklahoma, Rodgers and Hammerstein or Gilbert and Sullivan?
Rodgers and Hammerstein.
Time is up, and your answer was in time. But alas, after all that work, you banked a mere £150. Lighten the load, heighten the bank balance. It's time to vote off the weakest link.
Pat is the strongest link, as she is the only player to answer all of her questions correctly. The statistics show that Linda is the weakest link, but will the voting reflect this?
Voting over, it's time to reveal who you think is the weakest link.
Steve.
Steve.
Linda.
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 Pat,
Yes.
have you ever seen The Weakest Link?
Yes.
Not quite got the hang of it, though.
I thought I had.
So, you think Linda is the weakest link, do you?
Well, I think she got a couple wrong.
Right. Steve, I'm puzzled. M-O-R, I asked you, with your hairdo and shirt. I thought you probably would be a middle-of-the-road man. You're not a Radio 2 man?
No, definitely not, Anne, no.
Why Linda?
I think because Linda lost us more money than anybody else did.
Right. Linda, what happened to you?
I don't know, Anne. I think I was on par with a couple of the others on the team.
Oh, no, you weren't, Linda. You were much worse.
I didn't think I was the only person that got 2 wrong.
Well, you're the only person who had 3 votes. You are the weakest link. We're going to watch you and those muscles walk out. Goodbye.
I feel very disappointed that I was voted off at this stage, and I do feel that both Steve and Pete voted tactically. I feel they might have thought I was going to be a threat to them at a later stage.
Round 5, you banked so far £3,350 out of a possible 10,000. 4 of you left, another 10 seconds coming off the time. We start with the strongest link from the last round, that's Pat. Let's play the weakest link. Start the clock. Pat, the name of which Egyptian city means victorious in Arabic?
Cairo.
Correct. Mike, in 1976, Britain's first ever Olympic gold medal for men's figure skating was won by John who?
Curry.
Correct. Steve, in the animal kingdom, what P is the name given to the hide or skin of an animal with fur?
Pelt.
Correct. Pete, the US inventor Thomas Edison was born in which century?
The 19th century.
Correct, Pat.
Bank.
The Peninsular War of 1808 to 1814 was caused by which leader's invasion of Portugal and Spain?
Napoleon.
Correct. Mike, the TV comedy series Blackadder Goes Forth was written by Richard Curtis and which other famous writer and stand-up comedian?
Ben Elton.
Correct, Steve. Akihito became emperor of which Asian country in 1989?
Japan.
Correct, Pete.
Bank.
Which American actress who appeared in the 1990 film Ghost was also the first woman to present the Academy Awards in 1994?
Demi Moore.
Whoopi Goldberg. Pat, who succeeded Bobby Charlton as the English League's Footballer of the Year in 1967?
Nobby Stiles.
Jack Charlton. Mike, Clint Eastwood was mayor of which Californian town, Carmel or Santa Cruz?
Carmel.
Correct, Steve. In history, which English royal house ruled from 1485 until the death of Elizabeth I in 1603?
Tudor.
Correct,
Bang.
Pete. In maths, if a whole number is multiplied by itself, what do you call the product?
Factor.
Square. Pat, in language, what is a German word for an emotional sense of anxiety without a specific cause?
Angst.
Correct,
Bank.
Mike. What was the name of the 1980s TV series about the formative years of the characters from Last of the Summer Wine?
Pass.
First of the Summer Wine. Steve, in which US city was Martin Luther King born?
Pass.
Atlanta. Pete, which dame of the British theatre... Time is up. And in that round, you put into the kitty just £550. Who's lost their nerve? Who's buckling under the pressure? Who should be removed before any more damage is done? Remember, you can't afford to carry passengers. It's time to vote off the weakest link.
The statistics show Steve is the strongest player. The weakest link is Pete, although he was the strongest link in 2 earlier rounds. But will this be enough to save him when it comes to the vote?
Voting over, it's time to reveal who you think is the weakest link.
Pat.
Pete.
Mike.
Mike.
Who was the weakest link, Pete?
Me, Anne.
What happened?
Got the questions wrong.
Why Mike?
I thought, obviously I couldn't vote for myself, and I thought throughout he was possibly the worst of the remaining 3.
It's not that you don't like him.
No, it's not that at all, Anne. We all got on really well before the show, so...
Did you? So, Mike, you who watches television, how come you don't know about First of the Summer Wine?
Just went completely.
Did it?
Couldn't think of that
Just
one
like
at
you
all.
now. You are the weakest link. Goodbye.
I'm a bit peeved that I got knocked off at this stage because I was doing very well. And in that last round, I think there was very little between Steve and myself. And I know I definitely wasn't the weakest link. Bit annoying. Well, if I'd like to be vindictive, I'd like to see Pete off next, because Pete voted for me, and I'm sure he was far weaker than I was, and it was very, very tactical. He knew I was too strong for him in the final.
Round 6. You have a not very impressive £3,900 in the kitty out of a possible £12,500 that you could have won by now. There are 3 of you left: the engineer, the man researching compost, and the retired receptionist. Another 10 seconds off the clock. We start with the strongest link from the last round. That's Steve. Let's play the weakest link. Start the clock. Steve, the name of the famous American childcare author was Dr. Benjamin what?
Pass.
Spock. Pete, in pop music, from which Scandinavian country did the band Ace of Base originate?
Norway.
Sweden. Pat, in nature, the resin of the terebinth pine was the original source of which DIY product beginning with T?
Pass.
Turpentine. Steve, what type of camera invented by George Eastman first went on sale in the USA in 1900?
Box brownie.
A brownie, correct. Pete, in maths, what is 18 multiplied by 4?
It's 72.
Correct. Pat,
Bank.
in industry, what S is the name of the process by which metals such as iron are extracted from their ores?
Smelting.
Correct. Steve, Tiger Woods won the year 2000 British Open on which Scottish golf course?
Glen Eagles.
St Andrews. Pete, what was the name of the charter drawn up in 1215 which is regarded as the basis for civil liberties in England?
Magna Carta.
Correct. Pat, which southeastern state of America is home to Palm Beach and Daytona Beach?
Florida.
Correct. Steve,
Bank.
which famous basketball star took over as owner of the ice hockey team, the Washington Capitals, in the year 2000?
Pass.
Michael Jordan. Pete, in science, what S are formed when an acid reacts with a base?
Pass.
Salts. Pat, George Peppard appeared as the character Paul Varjak in which 1961 film starring Audrey Hepburn?
Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Correct. Steve,
Bank.
in which English county is the cathedral city of Ely?
Cambridgeshire.
Correct. Pete, in science, what colour is the element sulphur when solid?
Yellow.
Correct.
Bank.
Pat, which eastern state of America is home to Kennedy Space Centre's Spaceport USA?
Pass.
Florida. Steve, what is an area... Time is up. And in that round, you managed to bank just £350. Now, in round 7, you get the chance to double what you bank, and that means in the next round, there's £5,000 to be won. The question is, who is least likely to raise the bank balance? If you want to win and win well, hang on to the opposition and beat them in the final. Let the least bright go off and lie down. It's time to vote off the weakest link.
For the second time, Pat is the strongest player according to the statistics. Steve has gone from strongest link to weakest link. But who will lose out at this crucial stage of the game?
Voting over, it's time to reveal who you think is the weakest link.
Pat.
Steve.
Steve.
Pete, what did Steve do to upset you?
He hasn't done anything to upset me at all. I just think throughout the whole game, I think Pat's been slightly stronger.
Right. Pat, how are you feeling?
Not bad.
Good. Why Steve?
Well, because I just think Pete has been very, very strong for the whole series of rounds. And
Right.
on that basis, I voted for Steve.
OK. Steve, with 2 votes, you are the weakest link. Goodbye.
I think Pete will win the money tonight. He's shown himself to be the man with the most knowledge of the whole of the 8 in the team, and I'm certain that in the next round he will win.
Round 7. You have in the bank £4,250. By now, you could have won £15,000. Pete and Pat, just 2 of you left, and this time you have only 90 seconds. But whatever you win in this round will be doubled and added to your total to make up your final prize money. So £5,000 is at stake in this round. We start with the strongest link from the last round. That's Pat. Let's play the weakest link. Start the clock. Pat, what is the name of the late-night music show which has been presented by Jools Holland since 1992?
Pass.
Later with Jools Holland. Pete, in which English county is the country house Clarendon Park?
Suffolk.
Surrey. Pat, in World War I, was the Battle of Ypres fought in France, Belgium or Germany?
France.
Belgium. Pete, in which British university is the Cavendish Laboratory world famous for its physics work?
Oxford.
Cambridge. Pat, which English actor and author starred in Death in Venice in 1971?
Dirk Bogarde.
Correct.
Bang.
Pete, in football, who managed Nottingham Forest between 1975 and
Brian
1993? Correct.
Bang.
Pat, in pop music, the Bay City Rollers were named after a town in which American state? Utah or Illinois?
Illinois.
Utah. Pete, in which English county are Aylesbury, High Wycombe and Milton Keynes?
Buckinghamshire.
Correct. Pat, which
Bang.
Australian 400 metres runner lit the Olympic flame at the Sydney 2000 Games?
Kathy Freeman.
Correct.
Bang.
Pete, in ancient history, the Minoans were from which island in the eastern Mediterranean?
Crete.
Correct. Pat, in geography, the ruins of Rothsay Castle are found on which British Isle?
Isle of Wight.
Butte. Pete, according to the Hindu religion, which S was the wife of the god Rama?
Pass.
Sita. Pat, who wrote the operas The Barber of Seville, The Thieving Magpie and William Tell?
Rossini.
Correct. Pete,
Bang.
in literature, who wrote the 1915 novel The Rainbow featuring the character
T.H.
Ursula?
Lawrence.
Correct. Pat,
Bang.
in music, which member of the band Nirvana was married? Time is up. I cannot complete the question, and you certainly didn't make it to £2,500 in that round. You put into the kitty £300. Never mind. We'll double that and add it to the winnings from the previous rounds. That means total prize money this evening of £4,850. But of course, only one of you can take that money away. So now you will be playing against each other head to head. I'll ask alternate questions, best of 5. Whoever answers the most correctly wins. It's as simple as that. If there's a tie after 5, we'll go for sudden death until we have a winner. So, Pete and Pat, for £4,850, let's play the weakest link. Pete, as the strongest link in the last round, you have the choice of who goes first.
I'll go first, please.
Pete, in music, Mother Mary features in the lyrics of which 1970 Beatles hit?
Let It Be.
That is the correct answer. Pat, in the American TV series The A-Team, what was the nickname of Templeton Peck, played by Dirk Benedict?
Face.
I'll accept face. Face man, I'll accept face. Pete, in the board game Scrabble, how many bonus points are awarded if a player uses all 7 tiles in a single turn?
100.
The correct answer is 50. Pat, what is the capital of Syria?
Damascus.
That is the correct answer. Pete. Which Irish writer wrote a ballad published in 1898 when he was imprisoned in Reading Jail?
Oscar Wilde.
That is the correct answer. Pat. Which British comic actor played Cruella de Vil's sidekick Jasper in the 1996 film 101 Dalmatians?
I don't know.
The correct answer is Hugh Laurie. Pete, what was the nickname more commonly used for Robert Stroud, a resident of the notorious prison island in San Francisco Bay?
Birdman of Alcatraz.
That is the correct answer. Pat. The conspirator Titus Oates claimed to have discovered a popish plot to murder which monarch in 1678?
Charles II.
That is the correct answer. Okay, you're neck and neck at the moment. Pete, in the human body, which organ breaks down excess amino acids?
Kidney.
Correct answer is liver. Pat, if you answer this question correctly, you have won. So for £4,850. At which famous Scottish school did Zara Phillips, daughter of the Princess Royal, take her A-levels?
Gordonstoun.
That is the correct answer. That means, Pat, you are today's strongest link and you go away with £4,850. Pete, you leave with nothing. Coming up next on BBC One, Nick Berry and Stephen Tompkinson in the crime double In Deep. Join us again for the weakest link. Goodbye.
It was quite funny that I managed to get a lot of biology questions wrong, and I've got a degree in plant science, so that'll give everyone down the pub a good laugh.
I'm so happy to have won this money because I very badly want to go to Australia to see my daughter, whom I haven't seen for 12 years, and 2 grandchildren I have never seen, only in photographs.